You are 32 years old and sitting in a windowless office in the basement of a mid-tier logistics firm in Chicago, reconciling shipping manifests for a company that moves nothing more dangerous than industrial air filters. Your life is measured in Excel spreadsheets and the quiet satisfaction of a balanced ledger. You are an expert in the invisibility of numbers. One rainy Tuesday, your boss, a man named Miller, who usually smells of peppermint and anxiety, walks into your office, followed by a man whose suit costs more than your annual salary. Miller is pale, his hands shaking as he sets a leather briefcase on your desk. He tells you there has been a significant clerical error in a private account and that the man in the suit, Mr. Varga, needs it resolved immediately. You open the briefcase to find $4 million in mixed, unsequenced bills and a ledger that contains names of people who don't exist and businesses that have no physical addresses. You realize within 10 seconds that Miller has been laundering money for a cartel and has skimmed off the top, and now the cartel is here to collect the difference. Varga looks at you and asks if you can find the missing $300,000 before the sun goes down. You look at Miller, then at the ledger, and finally at Varga. You don't call the police. You don't run. You sit down, open a fresh sheet, and begin to trace the digital shadow Miller tried to hide. By 5 p.m., you have found the money tucked away in a shell company registered to Miller's sister. By 6 p.m., Miller is led out of the building by two men who do not look like logistics employees. Varga remains in your office. He tells you that Miller was a sloppy amateur, but you have a talent for the architecture of capital. He offers you a choice. You can stay in this basement and wait for the police to connect you to Miller's crimes, or you can come work for people who value precision. You choose the latter. You leave your chipped coffee mug on the desk and walk out into a life where the numbers carry the weight of life and death. By the end of your first year, you are no longer an accountant. You are a ghost maker. You move $20 million a month through a network of front companies that range from laundromats in Arizona to software startups in Estonia. You learn that the secret to moving mass quantities of cash is not hiding it, but making it look incredibly boring. You create a layering system that is so complex it would take a forensic team at the Treasury Department 5 years to unspool a single week of your work. You operate on the principle that the law looks for outliers, so you ensure every transaction fits the standard deviation of its industry. When you move $5 million through a chain of car washes, you ensure the water utility bills and soap orders match the projected revenue perfectly. You are the one who manufactures the reality that the taxman sees. The moral tension is a cold, hard knot in your stomach that never quite disappears, but you respond to it with a fierce, clinical focus. You realize that your responsibility is not to the money, but to the stability of the organization. If a single dollar is out of place, a dozen people might die. That pressure turns your decision-making into a razor-sharp instrument. You find yourself reflecting on the fact that you are the most powerful man in the room because you are the only one who knows exactly where the oxygen is kept. In year 3, the stakes escalate when a rival organization attempts a hostile takeover by targeting your liquidity. They don't use guns, they use hackers and whistleblowers. You wake up to find that 3 of your primary offshore nodes in Panama have been flagged by international regulators. $200 million of the organization's operating capital is frozen. The boss, a man you have met only twice and who radiates a quiet, terrifying stillness, gives you 72 hours to recover the funds or bypass the freeze before the organization runs out of cash to pay its soldiers. You don't sleep. You move into a state of logistical combat. You initiate a series of flash loans and high-frequency trades to create a smokescreen of legitimate market activity. You use the frozen assets as collateral for new, untainted lines of credit in Southeast Asia. You manipulate the very regulations meant to stop you, using the bureaucracy as a shield. By hour 60, you have moved the entire $200 million through a series of nested accounts in countries that don't have extradition treaties. The cost of the recovery is nearly $12 million in fees and bribes, a loss you have to explain to a man who does not believe in excuses. You present the loss as a security tax, an investment in the invisibility of the remaining capital. He accepts your logic, but you see the shift in his eyes. You are no longer just an asset, you are a liability who knows too much. Year 5 marks your transition into the inner sanctum. You are now managing the personal wealth of the cartel's upper echelon, moving hundreds of millions into legitimate real estate, art, and tech investments. You're essentially building a parallel economy. You spend your gaze on encrypted calls with Swiss bankers and London lawyers who know exactly who you represent, but find the commissions too lucrative to mention. The complexity of your life is staggering. You maintain 14 different identities, each with verifiable credit history and a digital footprint. You have become a master of the reverse paper trail. Instead of deleting records, you create so many false ones that the truth is buried under a mountain of plausible lies. However, the psychological cost is mounting. You have deleted the person you used to be. You can no longer visit your family. You send them anonymous inheritance payments through third-party trusts, watching from a distance as they live lives of comfort funded by the blood you've scrubbed from the ledgers. You realize that the more money you move, the less you can actually spend. You are a billionaire on paper who lives in a series of sterile, anonymous apartments, eating takeout and staring at screens. The true twist comes when you realize the federal government isn't trying to arrest you, they're trying to recruit you. You are contacted through a back channel by an agent that doesn't show a badge, but who knows the exact balance of your exit account in the Cayman Islands. They don't want the cartel, they want the map of the global financial plumbing you've built. They offer you a clean slate and a new life in exchange for a controlled collapse of the cartel's finances. You sit in a park in Lisbon, looking at the man, and you realize that the back room of the world is even bigger than you thought. The government and the cartel are just different departments in the same crumbling building. If you flip, the cartel kills you. If you don't, the government freezes you out and lets the cartel think you've stolen the money. You are caught in a pincer movement of your own design. You spend 3 days calculating the probabilities. You decide to play both sides, creating a dead man's switch in the global banking system that will trigger a massive, untraceable transfer of funds if your heart stops beating or if you are arrested. You make yourself too expensive to kill and too dangerous to cage. Now you sit in a high-rise office in Singapore, watching the digital tickers of the world's stock exchanges. You just moved $40 million for a new logistics expansion in South America. The numbers are clear, the ledgers are balanced, and the audit trails are pristine. But you know that somewhere a junior auditor is looking at a soap order for a car wash in Phoenix and wondering why the numbers look just a little too perfect. You are the architect of a shadow world, and your only reward is the continuation of the game. You are moving millions undetected, but in the process, you have become the most detected man on the planet, watched by those who want your power and those who want your head. You realize that in the world of high-stakes finance, there is no such thing as an exit strategy, only a more elaborate way to stay in. If you had the power to make any amount of money vanish and reappear anywhere on Earth, would you use it to escape the system or to become the one who owns it?